Well, good morning, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Sunshine Coast event as we celebrate Small Business Week, Queensland Small Business Week 2014. I know some of you have absolutely battled to get here. There was a bit of a nasty rollover on the highway, so some of you have dodged and weaved to get here, so thank you so very much for your company. It is a fabulous turnout this morning, and I know we are absolutely thrilled to see you out in such numbers. My name is Victoria Carthew, and I will be your MC this morning. The second year I've had the pleasure of being involved in Queensland Small Business Week, and it is really lovely to be welcomed back. The 2014 Queensland Small Business Week is 5 days of celebrating the contribution small business makes to the Queensland economy, and it's devoted to helping small businesses have a big future. Some little quick snap facts for you. Small business employs about 1 million people, and there are 403,000 small businesses right here in Queensland. And small business accounts for around 95% of all Queensland businesses. So you can see, and I'm not telling, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, how very, very important you are. This week, over 220 events are being hosted across the state. There are webinars, lunches, breakfasts, workshops, and plenty of networking. We hope that we've given you some time to do all of that this morning. It was great to see everyone out there bright and early and having a great chat. Today, we are talking about accelerating our small business, and our keynotes will definitely help us with some big ideas and insights on how to do that. We will hear from one of the world's most celebrated CEOs. I bet he hates people saying that about him. From one of the world's coolest startups, Tom Zaki is with us from the States. Great to have you here, Tom. Thank you very, very much for coming and chatting to us. The other big things in business, of course, in small business is social media. We will hear from Nick Bowditch all about Facebook and the amazing things that he has done. We'll also talk Twitter via Skype. Ollie Winter will be with us, so we'll do that a little bit later on as well. I would love you to get yourselves Instagramming, tweeting, hashtagging. Tell everybody where you are. On your tables, I've just done it. There's a little button. Grab it, take a selfie, hashtag Queensland Small Biz. You can have a look. I've already started. My handle is @Victoria Carthew. Do that throughout the morning. There's a great prize. We've got 3 Samsung tablets to give out across the week. So jump on, do that, and take it to the beach. Take a shot at the beach with your business button. Let us know how you go. We do have a lot to get through this morning. Your hot breakfast will be on their way shortly. So we will begin by welcoming a very busy lady. She is traversing the state this week, making sure every small business knows what we're doing and how much is being done. Would you please welcome our Minister, Jan Stuckey, the Minister for Tourism, Major Events, Small Business and the Commonwealth Games.
Lovely to see Victoria again. It's really interesting to meet another woman who speaks as quickly as I do. You got through my title faster than anybody ever does. Usually by the time they start saying tourism, I can leave the seat, and by the time they finish with Commonwealth Games, I'm up here. But my, she flew through that, didn't she? Anyway, that's why we have her here, because she makes sure everything moves on time, so she'll be putting the clock on me, so I better get going. Look, could I make a couple of acknowledgements here, and if I miss anybody out, it's not because you're not important, it's because I would spend my entire time acknowledging everybody, because each person here, of course, is a distinguished guest and very eager to learn. But I would like to acknowledge Councillor Chris Thompson, your acting mayor from Sunshine Coast Regional Council. It's terrific to see you again, Chris, and really great to hear how things are going here. To Tom Zaki, the CEO from TerraCycle, we have just been having a bit of a blast about a few things, so I'm sure you're going to find what he has to say very, very exciting this morning. I was just telling him I actually did a radio interview on the way up here, and he's going to make an announcement today, and I said on radio that I think he's going to turn people into product. So goodness knows what's going to happen to the rest of you here this morning. Nick Bowditch, Facebook Australia, formerly Small Business Director of Facebook Australia New Zealand. Thanks so much for coming along here, and you live in one of those beautiful parts of the world, even though it is over the border. I guess we could still say it's okay. I understand Ollie Wilton will be joining us in Skype this morning. He's your account executive from Twitter Australia, and my Director General is somewhere on a road to here, caught in traffic. Look, it's terrific to be back here on the Sunshine Coast and hosting a breakfast, very fittingly, at the Innovation Centre as we celebrate 2014 Queensland Small Business Week. After launching our inaugural Small Business Week last year, and that's the reason you could only be here for the second one, because there was only ever one before Victoria, with this government, we've got an even bigger and better program of events. And I note that we're actually competing with events across the Sunshine Coast, which is fantastic. And, this year, people have really embraced our Small Business Week with gusto, and that's fantastic. It's terrific to see so many business owners and representatives here today. When I was having a quick look through the guest list, the diversity of this region never ceases to amaze me. So today we're all going to be engaging in discussion about the digital economy. You also have a very rare opportunity to converse with key industry reps from companies, of course, such as Twitter, Facebook and TerraCycle. And I hope that you all own up to how good or how bad you are at using some of these amazing tools, because like them or love them, they are the way of the future. As a politician, I can tell you, the social media is certainly a tool that you need to use to your advantage, because if it's used to your disadvantage, it goes very quickly. All three of the companies that we have here today have developed new and unique business models that have allowed for high growth and expansion, and I know that is something that we're all very keen to hear about. The Queensland Government appreciates the importance of harnessing the opportunities that today's increasingly globalised and technology-intensive business environment offers. By seizing these opportunities, and I mean grasping them with both hands, businesses can become more efficient, innovative, productive and competitive. Without doubt, the growth of the digital economy is changing the shape of all of our futures in terms of how we run our business, communicate to clients and colleagues, but also how we run our lives. And if you have kids, you'll know full well what I mean. Through the Queensland Digital Economy Strategy and Action Plan, Go Digital Queensland, the Newman government has put in place the framework to support businesses to realise their full potential through the digital economy. Go Digital Queensland is the government's roadmap to using digital technologies, content and innovative services to boost productivity, connectivity and economic wellbeing in Queensland. The digital world is an integral part of our economy and will need to be embraced by all Queenslanders in order to advance our economy, create jobs, attract investment, build our prosperity and improve Queenslanders' lives and lifestyles. It is vital that Queensland is well positioned to compete in an increasingly competitive digital marketplace. And that's why as a government we're eager to harness all of these opportunities. We have established the Business and Industry Portal, or BIP, as I've given her an agenda, is affectionately known. This one-stop shop provides a seamless, integrated single point of entry to the government's business services. With over 800 online resources, the portal has saved an estimated $250 million in time and money savings for businesses just over the past 2 years. Testament to our government's commitment to supporting small business, and what brought us all here today is Queensland Small Business Week. This year celebrates the significant contribution that small business make to our economy, hence our overarching theme, helping small business to have a big future. Last year's week had some 91 events and some 4,500 participants. This year, I'm going to increase on your 220, young lady, and say we have some 240 activities and events, including webinars, function workshops scheduled across Queensland. And here on the Sunshine Coast, it is a fantastic way to shine the spotlight on your 33,647 small businesses scattered the length and breadth of the Sunshine Coast. And many of those, of course, are tourism businesses. And if we can put in a plug, in a couple of weeks' time, the biggest tourism industry event for Queensland will be occurring on the Sunshine Coast. It's called Destination Q, and it is going to be absolutely amazing. But I really want to draw everyone's attention to Saturday. It is Buy Locally Saturday. It is part of our Think Queensland Buy Locally campaign. We're running that again this year. I hope that flags will be flying on every small business. I'll be back in my beloved Currumbin outside some of my favourite shops. Goodness knows what they've got me doing. Apparently I'm meant to walk a mile in their shoes that day. But, you know, it is a day to really celebrate and take part in and support our small businesses. So what we find is that every single dollar that is spent in a local business actually generates $5 for that economy. So please remember that. We are supporting our small businesses, but we're also supporting job creation. So, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot predict the future. You might be able to, Tom, and you might be able to, Nick, but we can certainly plan for it. And technology will continue to play a driving role in our future, and customers will still desire great service and never forget the personal touch. I wish all of you the very best with your endeavours. When small business thinks big, anything is possible. And on that note, I really thank you for your attendance here this morning. And can I also say that the Queensland Government is very keen to continue working very closely with industry and business, and particularly Sunshine Coast Regional Council, and of course our tourism bodies here, so ably led by Simon, to drive economic growth for your region and community prosperity for every single person. Thank you. I'll sneak off here.
Minister, thank you very, very much indeed. 240 events. Can I also say congratulations and applaud you on this wonderful book that was launched yesterday called Shining Bright. These are some wonderful stories. You will all receive one of these as you leave today. Wonderful stories of small businesses around our state that are doing amazing things from way out west to the coastline. So look out for that as you head out the door today. Time now to welcome another gentleman who has been mentioned already. Would you please welcome the Acting Mayor of the Sunshine Coast, Councillor Chris Thompson, to say a few words about our special event and what's happening here on the Sunshine Coast this week. Welcome.
Thank you, Victoria. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sunshine Coast. Today we celebrate Small Business Week with a theme of accelerating small business. First of all, a big thank you to the Honourable Jan Stuckey, MP, Minister for Tourism, Major Events, Small Business and Commonwealth Games for coming to the Sunshine Coast today to launch Small Business Week. Minister, it's fair to say that all of your portfolios play an important part of the Sunshine Coast economy. First of all, the tourism sector remains one of the major parts of our economy, with some 9 million visitors generating close to $3 billion in annual turnover and spending and contributing more than 40,000 jobs annually. Major events such as the just completed Sunshine Coast Marathon, the Queensland Garden Expo and many others contribute close to $100 million in economic activity here on the Sunshine Coast. Small business has of course always been a mainstay of our economy, and here on the Sunshine Coast they are well represented with some 30,000 small and medium-sized enterprises. Finally, Minister, although we don't have a Commonwealth Games, we do have 13 of the 17 venues required to host the Commonwealth Games, and in 2016 we have a series of major events from the World Ironman Championship to the Australian Surf Lifesaving Championships, which promises to make 2016 our own Commonwealth Games year in participant and spectator numbers alone. But today we're here to talk about small business on the Sunshine Coast. The recently released Sunshine Coast Business Confidence Survey had some very positive news about what small business are doing and plan to do over the coming financial year. The survey revealed that 47% of businesses expected that their performance over the next 6 months would be somewhat or much stronger than the previous 6 months. 51% of businesses expected an increase in profitability. 23% of businesses expected an increase in staffing levels, and 29% of businesses expected an increase in capital investment. Whilst these were some healthy results, we know that the economic recovery post-GFC is not yet evenly spread across the sector. all of the indices are showing that they are on a positive journey back to a solid economic growth. Sunshine Coast Council is committed to supporting small business community. In addition to our regional economic development strategy and focus on our 7 high-value industries, we have a number of tools and services to help small businesses. Namely, the coordination of Lend-Lease and Spotless procurement workshops across the Sunshine Coast to leverage the $1.8 billion hospital investment project. A number of Sunshine Coast companies have benefited from these contracts already. The delivery of council procurement workshops, which has seen a massive $169 million, that's almost 70% of our total expenditure, go to local firms. The development and delivery of an annual business confidence survey, which helps track the business mood and needs. And coming up, we have 2 new tools to help business grow their business. The first of these is we have available on our website the economy.id market intelligence service with a very useful range of customer and data available. And later this week, Councillor Steve Robinson will be launching our online business gateway, which, linked to the ICN, will enable Sunshine Coast small business to be aware of and better compete for new business opportunities. And let me say, ladies and gents, it's fitting to be in the Innovation Centre today with such IT luminaries, as we have some great digital champions. In fact, award-winning digital champions that have passed on their skills and knowledge to the small business community. Sunshine Coast-based business, the Training Collective, last week won the Access and Digital Skills category with their hugely successful Get Up to Speed program at the Australia and New Zealand Internet Awards. These awards recognise businesses and individuals who excel in delivering accessible, innovative, informative and secure resources to a diverse and wide community on the internet, both in Australia and New Zealand. More than 650 people from around Australia and New Zealand have completed the 12-week Get Up to Speed online program since 2012. The program aims to give participants essential digital skills. As the Training Collective Director, Yvette Adams, and Yvette's here this morning somewhere, welcome Yvette, mentions the program got off the ground back in 2012 with a range of collaborators, including Broadband Today Group, Montague Consulting, the Australasian Leadership Academy, and of course, the Sunshine Coast Council. Congratulations, Yvette, and to you and your team on this prestigious award and for providing such a valuable service to small business community, as well as taking the program to a new level since 2012. In fact, I think that deserves a round of applause, so congratulations to that. In closing, I'm sure you will gain much from the upcoming speakers this morning, and I hope visitors to the Sunshine Coast in the audience might have time to look at the Innovation Centre and to have a look at some of our region and the various opportunities that it represents. We're a great place to take a break, and we're an even better place to do business. Thank you, ladies and gents.
I was just mentioning the networking and having a chat to those around you. I'm sitting next to a lovely lady who I said, "What do you do?" And she told me a story. She's starting a business called School Stuff Sorted. I said, "Oh, I so need to do that. All the kids' photos are in boxes and piles and kindy photos." And that's exactly what she's doing. And that's what I love about these events, is that so many people here are doing those things that you wish you'd thought of yourself and you never ever do. And I wonder if that is the story of our next guest today, because at 19 he started TerraCycle. And I think we're pretty green. We recycle a lot. Tom takes things to a whole new level. He is changing the world one little bit of garbage at a time. He is recognised as one of the most innovative CEOs in the world, and his business is doing amazing things. I could stand here for 5 minutes and tell you all about him. I would rather he got up here, because what he has to show you and what he's going to do is just phenomenal. Would you please welcome, all the way from the USA, great to have him with us here in Queensland on the Sunshine Coast, Tom Saki.
Thank you. Oh. Right on. Hey, everybody. So first, thank you for inviting me to breakfast this morning. What I want to chat with you a little bit about is obviously, how TerraCycle came to be in the story, but not as much what we do, more about how entrepreneurship has played in, and especially the subset of entrepreneurship that I focus on, which is the idea of social entrepreneurship. One of the privileges I have is I get a chance to go and talk at a lot of business schools. And especially with business school students, I always ask the question, what is the purpose of business? And everyone in unison always has the exact same answer, which is return to shareholders, as much profit to shareholders as possible. And that is a definition of business, but I think that is a challenging one in the sense that most employees, most folks don't go to work because of what the share price is. Most people go to work because of what product a business makes or what service a business does. I imagine if you're a professor here, then you probably more enjoy teaching and what you're going to impart on students than necessarily what the paycheck is at the end of the day. So I think, and the way we try to run social business is to say profit is very important. It's not to be ignored, but it's more an indicator of health. And what we've tried to focus on is make our return not as much the profit side, although we are profitable and have had 11 years of staggering revenue growth. It's what do we do on the environment and social side. And when you look at a social business from an entrepreneurial perspective, I think the very first question to ask is what is the issue that it's solving? So for TerraCycle, we've been running for 11 years. We operate in 26 countries around the world, including here in Australia and nearby in New Zealand. Our most recent market launch was in Japan just 3 months ago, which has been quite successful for us. And our entire question that we're trying to answer is this question: what is garbage? And when we reflect on garbage, so I'll jive on this a little bit. First, we all know garbage doesn't exist in nature in any capacity whatsoever. It's only a human idea. I'd also argue that it's a very modern human idea. I'd say garbage is created because of two things that have come together. One is that we make our products today from ever complex materials. Now, these are important, innovative materials that allow us to do things we could never do before. But nature has no idea what to do with them. There's no organisms built to be able to compost my shoe, which is made entirely from synthetic polymers, or the chair you're sitting on, or the carpet your feet are on, or frankly, almost anything this room is made from. The other challenge is that not only do we make our objects from increasingly complex stuff, but we consume phenomenal amounts of that stuff. If you compare 100 years ago, complex polymers were just emerging, and 100 years ago, someone alive would have consumed 10 times less stuff than we consume today. Now, 100 years ago, you still had to feed yourself, have clothing to protect from elements, have a home. So the 9x extra consumption that we all enjoy today is stuff that is not necessary for our survival, but stuff that we enjoy having. I mean, just think back on the past $1,000 you spent. Was that to ensure your survival? Or how much of that was to create happiness? So that's the equation that creates this overall issue. Now, the garbage problem is really big. I promise not to talk about all the negatives, but of the 5 billion tons a year that is generated between commercial and municipal waste, 25% still ends up in our oceans. There's 5 major garbage gyres, not just the big Pacific one, but every ocean gyre is a big garbage patch. Of the rest, 5% is recycled. We'll get back to that in a moment. And 75% is either burned or buried. Burying or landfilling is the most common solution to waste. It's common here, common in the Americas. Where you see burning becoming more common is countries that have high population densities, high wealth, and low landmass. Japan, South Korea, Germany are good examples of countries that have higher percentage of incineration. So that's the issue that we're trying to look at. Now, where did all this start? 11 years ago, I was attending Princeton as an undergrad, and my friends and I, well, I'll tell you the honest story, we were growing some plants that you should only really grow in your basement. There they were as babies. And it ain't easy. At 19 years old, you're not a gardener. You have no idea what you're doing, especially not when there's hydroponics involved, and we couldn't make it work. Until one day, my friend Pete, who's the gardener here, calls me and he says, the plants are doing incredibly well. So I get in my car, I drive up. He was going to school in Montreal, and the plants were going incredibly well. And I asked him, well, what did you do? And he said he took organic waste, the stuff we have just generated today. It's on our tables, anything that we're not eating. That's exactly what this is. Was breakfast, by the way. And fed it to worms. Now, this is not anything that we invented. If you're a gardener, you know that worm castings or worm poop is a great fertilizer for your plants. But when I went back to school, because of sort of an entrepreneurial spirit, I thought, well, has anyone tried to take the idea of worm poop big? Has there been anyone who's made a massive business around it? And it turned out no one had. So my friends and I, we got together and we invented this machine. This is a worm poop contraption machine, conversion machine. To make a long story short, basically you put in organic waste into that rotating thing. That rotates, adds oxygen, microbes eat the organic waste, and it goes up to about 100 degrees Celsius very quickly. Then you take the organic waste, put it into the center machine, where basically worms move out of their poop into the center, while the conveyor belts move in the opposite direction. Organic waste in one end, worm poop out the other. And it worked like a charm. Now, the challenge, especially when you are not doing, as a young person, a high-tech .com or app, is that it's very difficult to raise funding, because there's this conception out there from venture capitalists and funding sources that young people should only be doing .coms, and that's where we're going to support. This is the opposite of a .com from that point of view. So we couldn't raise money. No one would invest in our business. And we had this challenge because we thought, well, how do we start getting our product out and maybe generating revenue by just selling the product itself? Since we had no money, we couldn't even afford packaging. And we decided, since we had found our genesis in waste, organic waste, is there a way to solve our issue in waste as well? And so we went around to all the recycling containers in the Princeton area and sorted out all the soda bottles that were there. Now, it turns out it's not legal to go through people's garbage. I had a chance to learn this while reflecting on it in a night in jail. But we learned something incredibly amazing. Garbage around the world is incredibly standardized. And this is one of the neat things, I think, in entrepreneurship. Many people ask me, like, what do you need to learn and what should you do before you start? And my biggest advice is just start, because you're going to learn it as you do it. I would have never known about how standardized garbage is unless I went out and actually collected it and saw. And in the world of beverage containers, there's only 4 volumes in every country. Now, this will change country by country, but within a country, like the United States, there's half-liter bottles, 20-ounce bottles, which is 591 milliliters, 1 liter, and 2 liter. Here's an example of a 20-ounce bottle. What's amazing within 20-ounce bottles, or any bottle shape for that matter, is it's incredibly standardized. The base is the same, the tread is the same, the height of the bottle is the same. To make a long story short, you can, and we still do this today, through a high-speed bottling line, bottle into mixed used soda bottles. That's never been done before, yet it's incredibly easy to accomplish. Now, this was our first product. This is liquid worm poop in a used soda bottle. The only part of this product that is not garbage, because even the trigger sprayers were leftovers from large companies like P&G and Unilever, is the label. Had to be a heat shrink label, because every bottle was literally different. One was a Pepsi bottle, one a Coke bottle, and so on. Now, we learned another lesson in this, once we got this listed at Walmart and other major retailers, is that garbage has intellectual property rights. I mean, who knew, except some astute attorneys, maybe. So we get letters from both Coca-Cola and PepsiCo's legal departments saying, you guys are infringing, TerraCycle, on our protected shape, because you're still using our protected, if it's a rocket ship-looking thing for Coke or a barbell-looking thing for Pepsi. So one of the unique things I've seen as, in social business, where you have an extra power, an extra boost, is that companies are very interested in working with social business and supporting social business. Staff is very interested in joining social business. For example, this year we had 150 interns across 26 offices, and people were lining up to apply to work for no compensation at all, just to be a part of the movement. Social business has that power. It may seem very sort of hippie and granola, but man, there's a lot of excitement behind it and a lot of doors open that you wouldn't expect. An example here is within 3 months, we had the world's first and still only license from Coke and Pepsi to package shit in their distinctive shape and sell it. Now, the business grew. In the first year we did 100,000, then 500,000, then 2 million, then 3 million in sales, and we became a bigger and bigger worm poop company. But we reflected on, again, what's our purpose? And I think it's important to always check back as you grow a business on what is the point of it all? Why are you doing it? And our point had nothing to do with fertilizer. Our goal was, how do we solve garbage? And here we had done it with soda bottles, reused soda bottles and organic waste, but could there be more? So we took a step back. We said, let's evaluate what currently occurs. And I'm just going to skip 1 or 2 slides. Today, in every country around the world, some things are recyclable and some things are not. And as we evaluated, we found something really interesting. It's always the same stuff. No matter if you're in a country that has very, let's call it emerging recycling, like Argentina, it's the same stuff that's recyclable as a country that has very advanced recycling, say, like Germany. The only difference between Argentina and Germany from a point of view of recycling is not what is recyclable, but how much of what is recyclable is actually collected and recycled. As an example, aluminum can recycling in Argentina is below 10%, yet in Germany it's above 90%. Yet, in both countries, you can't recycle a cigarette butt, a toothbrush, a coffee capsule, and so on and so forth. So we were asking the question, why is this the case? Why is it always paper, glass, aluminum, PET, and HDPE, those are two forms of plastic that are recyclable, and everything else ends up being burned or buried? And the answer was, there's no technical magic to this. It's not that a diaper or a cigarette butt or a toothbrush cannot be recycled. It can, and we recycle all three of those waste streams. It's all about money, as usually always is the case. This is the magical equation of what renders something recyclable or not recyclable. The reason an aluminum can is recyclable is because the aluminum is so valuable that it's more than the cost of collecting it, the logistics, and the cost of processing it. And you can create a business and make money. And there's thousands of great recycling companies out there in the business of collecting paper, aluminum, and these other materials. But everything else, it costs more to collect and process than that material is worth. One of the jokes when I get invited by our clients like P&G and others to advise them on how do they make their product recyclable, now this is a hyperbolic joke, is to say, hey, if you want a Gillette razor blade to be recycled everywhere in the world, make it from solid gold, because I bet you no one will throw it out when it's broken. But if it's made from materials that don't have value in it, it will be rendered waste. So we then started saying, well, is there a theory we can apply to all garbage, and is there a way to make all garbage possible to circularly process? And again, we were a fertilizer company at this point in time. We were just thinking about purpose and what we're here for. What is our reason of being? So we came up with this theory. The basic idea is that you take any piece of waste, let's just say I have a cup in my hand, and that cup is made from really three ideas. The first is the glass it's made from. That's the material. But it's not just a bunch of glass pellets or cutlets in my hand, it's a cup. So the second thing is it's the form. It's the idea, it's a physical form of a cup that also costs money to produce. But it's a third thing as well, which is an idea. The idea of a cup is to hold a liquid so you can drink it. So if you think about waste with those three different aspects, suddenly you unlock the magic of circular solutions. There's 5 solutions to garbage in the world. The least sustainable is landfill. I think we can all agree on that, so I won't go into the details of why. The next best is burn the garbage if you recover the energy, because at least you get the caloric value or the energy value out of the garbage. The challenge is that it creates a lot of carbon, and you don't get all that other value of the physical material out, but you do get energy, which is good. Now, how about circular solutions? The first circular solution, and about 1% of the waste we collect can go into this. Last year we collected, or this year will be about, say, 60 million kilos of waste, or 120 million pounds, and 1% can go into reuse. That's clothing, toys, cell phones, computers, but I want to show you non-normal aspects of reuse. Of course, the worm poop in a soda bottle, and here's how that expanded as a product line. I just point your attention to the middle product, which we brought in our 3rd year, which was a bird feeder. Simply an upside-down 2-liter soda bottle filled with bird food. Yet, it was the best-selling bird feeder at Walmart for 2 years in a row. That's one of the really fun things about this sort of disruptive innovation if you work with really large partners. And that's one of the other recommendations I always have for social entrepreneurs, is that social entrepreneurs want to focus on local and other social distributors, like organic retailers. But if you work with the very biggest, here like Kohl's or Woolworths, that gives scale, and very fast scale. Well, here's another example. This was with Walmart as well. Last year, we realized that a margarine tub had the exact same specifications as a planting pot. So we worked with a nursery that supplied all the plants to all the Walmarts in the West Coast, and this is how 35 million plants were sold last year in directly used margarine containers. And it became cheaper for the consumer, because garbage has this unique property. It has negative raw material value, not positive raw material value. So that's reuse. The next opportunity with garbage we found is upcycling. Excuse me. Upcycling is where you value what the waste is made from, what form it's in, but not its intention. Pet packaging was never intended to be pet products, or wine corks into cork boards, and so on and so on. Everything you're seeing here are major mass-produced products. Now, one of the things we learned as we grew is that you also have to do what you're good at and try not to do anything else. So TerraCycle doesn't make the soccer ball. We come up with the idea of making a soccer ball here from beverage packaging, and then we work with a major soccer ball manufacturer who then takes it, figures out the details, and puts it out to market. Because we learned very quickly by having really big losses that you can't do everything yourself, and focusing is really important, whether it's Timberland making shoes for us, or here's 2 dresses, just to show you how wide-ranging waste can be. Let's just say the raw material for that dress was a lot of hard work to put together. Even our offices all around the world, one of the things we have seen is that it's very important to inspire a team. And that's not just through an inspirational leader or what you say, but everything, how the physical office looks like and so on. So one of the design rules we have in every office around the world, from our office in Sydney to here in Trenton, New Jersey, is every detail of the office has to be made from garbage. Literally everything, from the tables, their old doors. Here's an example. This is the office in Germany, in Mainz. Every aspect is waste. The only exception is the computers and projectors, just because we want to give the fastest equipment to our staff. It turns out it's also the cheapest possible way to do interior design, whether it's in Toronto, Canada, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, in London, in the UK. Everything can be made from waste. And the level of inspiration that brings is phenomenal. Now, the final circular solution is recycling. That's where you only value the materials. Now, this guy may seem familiar to you, Mr. Potato Head by Hasbro, but he's made entirely from post-consumer or used potato chip bags. Anything can be dismantled and recycled. We've launched cigarette recycling in 9 countries around the world, including here in Australia. And actually, our Australian cigarette recycling program has been the most successful cigarette recycling program anywhere in the world, even if you don't adjust for population. You would be even more successful if we adjusted for population, but if you don't, it's still the most successful on the amount of cigarette butts collected every month. And the way we do that one is you just take the cigarettes, you shred them, you separate the organic components, the ash, tobacco, and paper, that's composted, and then the inorganic, the filter itself is a cellulose acetate. If you're wearing eyeglasses that are made from plastic, I think you are, you have glasses, that's the same material as a cigarette butt, that plastic material that it's made from. So you may just see eyeglasses from cigarettes at some point soon. But everything, whether it's aluminumized waste, or flip-flops into playgrounds, cosmetic waste into gardens, even shipping trucks made from used potato chip bags. Everything can be done. And as we were exploring this question of what is our purpose, we realized that there's much more we can do than just taking organic waste, making it into worm poop, and putting it into a used soda bottle. Now, we still do that, but it's all about what is the power of a big idea, and especially a purposeful big idea, because you can rally so much support and so many doors will open that never were possible if you just run business normally. So I talked a lot about solution, but as soon as we decided this, we said, well, the big issue here isn't the solution. Clearly, there's answers to it all. The big issue is how do we collect all this waste? And one of the reasons we burn or bury all the garbage out there is that it's very complicated. It's very hard to separate out the chewing gum from the dirty diaper, from the cigarette butt, from the toothbrush when it's all mixed together. So you need distinct, separated collection, and that is what was the magical solution that we needed. So we invented this program. This works here in Australia. You can go to terracycle.com.au. You'll see a whole range of waste streams that we collect, from coffee capsules to oral care waste to cigarette butts to cleaner packaging. And today we actually launched another program in Australia with Dulce Gusto to collect and recycle coffee capsules. So you can see that as of this morning. You just join the program anywhere you are in the country, and you download a free Australia Post shipping label. Once you've filled up a box with that type of waste, put it on the box, send it into our warehouse here, and when we receive it, we allocate 2 cents for every piece of waste collected in most programs to your account. And you can then choose any school or charity to give that money to. This may seem like sort of an idea that, yeah, it takes a lot of work, and would people really be into it? And the response is what's absolutely nuts. For example, we have 40 million students around the world participating in this program. Thousands of schools already here in Australia signing up, collecting these various waste streams, as well as small businesses, offices, and so on. Just to give you an example, with cosmetic waste, after 33 months, 250,000 people in the US were collecting, 3.5 million people in the US were collecting 250,000 pieces of waste every single month, growing faster than the very concept of recycling. Remember, it took 40 years for most countries to go from no recycling to around 25%. And that's another sort of interesting thing where we are at today in the world. You know, a lot of people complain about globalization and these big multinationals going everywhere, and there are a lot of negative externalities of that. But one of the benefits to entrepreneurship is not local anymore. It simply is not. It's incredibly global. And I'll tell you, our expansion globally was in 2008. We were only in the United States. Today, we're in all the countries that are in green. And in 2008, we got a call from PepsiCo in Brazil. Pepsi is one of our clients in the US. And the guy there said, he's the head of their chip division, or Frito-Lay, here maybe called Walkers, said, well, we really like the work you're doing in the US. Could you come down and, as a consultant, teach an entrepreneur to replicate your business in Brazil? And I was like, yeah, that's interesting, but why don't we go down and we'll just open for you and do the business ourselves? And we realized that problems, especially big problems like garbage, are not just local. It's not just an Australian problem. It's a global problem. A toothbrush for Colgate is not just not recyclable here. It's not recyclable anywhere in the world, full stop. And it's also the same company. And everyone's looking for global solutions. So if you're an entrepreneur here focusing in Australia, think about, does the problem you're solving, because every business is solving a problem of some kind, can that translate to other countries? And the magic of that is amazing. Today we have meetings with all of our major clients. We work with basically every major consumer product company on the planet, and every 90 days we ask them, what new country do you want this service brought into? And we open a new country every 4 months. The other really exciting thing about being global, or being able to go global these days, is with communication, with things like Skype, with IP phones, with just the general pace of the internet and the way especially employees now think. It's very easy to manage a global business. It's not as hard as it used to be back in sort of the days of the fax machine and things of that sort. You can now do this very coherently. Now, I'll say the biggest lesson I've learned in going global is the value of transparency. Classic business sometimes puts boundaries up, silos get created. And one of the things we've tried to do really aggressively is not create any silos whatsoever. One of the ways we manifest this is every single country lead, so our leader Anna, who's here for Australia, or our leader in Hungary, or our leader in Japan, as well as every functional leader, like our head of operations or head of marketing, every month has to submit a very detailed report on everything positive and negative that happened in their department. That's pretty normal. The difference is the report doesn't just go to me as the chief executive, but goes to every employee in the business, no matter what their seniority. It goes to everyone from someone in customer service in Israel all the way up to senior management. Everyone gets exactly the same reports. The only reports we don't share like that are HR and legal for obvious reasons. But everything else is shared exactly the same. It goes one step further. We then review these reports with the right teams, and we have pretty frank feedback, positive and negative. And that whole feedback cycle goes again to every employee in the business. So if you're working, say, customer service in our Israeli division out of our office in Tel Aviv, you would get the exact same reports that I get. And many people said, well, is that going to create risk, or is that going to create issues, or is that too much sharing of information? I can tell you, in 5 years of doing this with quite a lot of employees, no risk has been produced, no negative has come, but the level of empowerment and the level of mobility of information between divisions has been phenomenal. We've seen examples where our GM in Argentina is emailing our team in Germany saying, I read your report and that issue that you're facing, I already dealt with it 6 months ago, here's the answer, here's what you should do. How would that happen naturally? They would never even be talking. So one of the interesting things is there's this huge opportunity today to go global, even if you're a relatively small business. Our revenue this year will be 25 million. I call ourselves a micro multinational. But one really good way to do that is through hyper transparency with your team. And the amount of empowerment that gives is really strong. There's no need to hold information back. So now around the world, whether it's in the US, juice pouches can be recycled, whether it's in Germany, toothbrushes can be recycled, or toothpaste tubes, in Israel, chip bags, all the way to Tetra Paks, everything can be recycled. And I want to leave on one last note. We talked a lot about the infrastructure and how we've grown in really focusing down on purpose as a key tenet of thinking about the purpose of the business and where it will go. And really for us, purpose defines where we will go next. And for us, our purpose is how do we eliminate the idea of waste. Our way to do that is by making things that are non-recyclable, recyclable. But the last thing I want to leave you with is promotion. Because promotion is difficult for small business, partly because the big, large companies spend huge, ridiculous sums of money on advertising and promotion. And how, as a small business, as an entrepreneur, can you compete with that? Frankly, wouldn't an entrepreneur want to spend the $50,000 they have on a new employee versus spending it all on an ad that may never even be seen? I mean, it's very difficult to decide how you do that. So what TerraCycle is deployed is we run what we call a negative cost marketing department. Our marketing department generates crazy amount of awareness and a profit in the end. They are fundamentally profitable. So how do you create negative cost marketing? The way to do that is instead of paying to be the advertising, why not get paid to be the content? One of the interesting things that's happening today in the media space, and if there's journalists, I want to see if you agree with this or not, but there's way more need of content out there. There's way more blogs to fill, way more articles to write. Even though people have talked about the amount of funding in media going down, the volume of words out there is increasing exponentially, and there's fewer and fewer people to do it. So the trick to negative cost marketing first is to generate tremendous publicity. The way to do that is to make the job of the journalist as easy as possible. It's not about sending some press release filled with numbers and letting the journalist then figure everything out. It's about making it very easy, getting high-res photos over to the journalists, setting up interviews for them, making it very easy to generate the work that they need to do. Now, that's not necessarily negative cost. That just generates the base of what brings negative cost. Once you start getting written about quite a bit, and we're now, I think our rate of media is actually just a little out of date. We're at 18.2 articles per day. That's the rate of media that comes back. Now, once you do that, newspapers will start writing about you multiple times, because there's only so many newspapers out there. And as soon as that happens, you go into phase two, which is you call the newspaper and say, hey, you've written a few articles about our business. Clearly you're interested in it. Could we now blog for you? And what happens is places like for us, like the New York Times or Huffington Post or Wall Street Journal, have moved from just writing stories to allowing us to become the journalist. What's the effect? And I'll just simplify it from a business point of view. You get paid to place your propaganda for all intensive purposes. Now, the important thing in negative cost marketing is, unlike advertising, where you serve the message only, and as the number one concern, in negative cost marketing, you have to serve the content first, then your underlying message or propaganda or whatever you would call that. It's important because the content has to be good, or people are not going to pay for it. So blogging is that first layer. Today, we blog for about 40 different places in the US and about another 100 all around the world. And we encourage our team members to become personalities so that they can become bloggers in their local markets. Some blogs pay, some don't, but again, it's a way to create negative cost marketing. Now, once you have that, that layers on and creates an even bigger platform. You can suddenly start writing books. We've written now 4 books that have come out. Again, you get paid to put out your message. After that, it leads into TV commercials and speaking opportunities like what I'm doing with you today. And what I'll leave you with at the very end is the cherry on the negative cost marketing cake is having your own television show. It's the exact same thing. There's way more. Remember 30 years ago how many channels existed? Like a handful. Today, there's thousands of channels. They're all craving content. And we did this. We've are now just finished filming the 2nd season of our TV show. It's going to be airing here in Australia sometime in Q1. We don't know on what network yet. It just premiered in the US about a month ago, season 2. It's called Human Resources. And each episode of the show follows us as we solve a business challenge. How do we make cosmetic waste recyclable or cigarette butts recyclable or whatever it may be? And how do we work internally? What is the human question that's being asked? So it could be me taking our company lunch vegetarian, or someone trying online dating in our science department. So in closing, I wanted to play you 1 minute of our TV show. This is from episode 1 of season 2 to give you a little taste of what it's like to work inside TerraCycle.
What's this red light mean? Is that?
I think
Wait, no, that's me. We're in. Okay.
All right. We wanted to make you this film to introduce you to the people who make up TerraCycle US. So come along.
Crush it.
What TerraCycle does is we make things that are non-recyclable nationally recyclable. We buy way more than we need. So we have to really take responsibility of this issue ourselves.
You need to create distinct separated collection, and then from there everything flows quite easily.
We look at how we can reuse it, upcycle it, or even recycle it into cool new products. For 10 years in a row, we have only grown. We operate in 23 countries. Everything we did, we invented. How do we eliminate the concept of waste?
I don't want you to take this the wrong way because you're really good at it. But do you ever not talk in fan ways?
Let me just do some quick introductions to everyone. The first person I want to introduce you to is Stefan.
My name is Stephen Katz. I work in the material sales department at TerraCycle.
He just recently joined TerraCycle. Is there anything that you want to share?
Only that I've been here for a year and a half. This company is an ultra-modern company that exists.
Bring your arms up over your head.
There's yoga every other day. You can just work out and have a little steam. This morning I had a nerve gun fight with an intern just because I didn't like the way he was working.
Now we're going to head over to our graphic department.
Tom has a very broad vision. Because he's so smart and because he's a genius, he had trouble relating with us normal people.
So we have Dan.
I definitely have a dull personality.
This introduce you to the design department. First is Tiffany wearing a brilliant ensemble.
Yeah, the superhero costume is a designer. Garbage is my passion. My ring is an old spoon. My earrings are like parts. TerraCycle is my dream job because I set out on a career path to recycle everything that I could get my hands on.
And we have Andrew.
We talked about this, just did that, vegan food. Oh, God, kidding me? I just didn't bring the dog to work. And I always talk about the environment. I don't know why. Environment seems fine to me.
So this is the publicity
Thank you.
run by Mr. Aldi.
Just gives you a little bit of a taste. But I think one of the really fun aspects of entrepreneurship is how do you go grow your business? I really recommend to think as globally as possible, not just as locally as many of us do. And then the other aspect is no matter whether you're a core social or environmental business or let's just call it a more traditional business, is the power of engaging with purpose, whether it's purpose for environment or purpose for society or purpose for something else, opens way more doors than you can ever expect, and it's incredibly strong. And you can still have a very high growth business while creating value in those other areas. So with that said, this gives you a little taste on how we're trying to eliminate the idea of waste. And thank you again for inviting me this morning. Thank you.
Amazing.
Appreciate it.
Tom, thank you. Is he not amazing? Is that not fantastic? And I just keep thinking the idea of when you actually got started and to thinking how big it could be is just amazing to me. So thank you, Tom. We've got a couple of Tom's books here as well, which he's given to us. And when we draw the Lucky Door prize a little later, we will give those away as well. Down. Thank you, Tom, very much indeed. Wow. Kind of makes you think the opportunities are endless, doesn't it? And all the things you do in your own businesses that perhaps if you just look a little bit that way, what you can do. Now, like it or loathe it, social media is here to stay. I really like it most of the time, but we can choose how much it pervades and interferes with our personal lives. But it is an incredibly essential tool for business, particularly for small business. So we're now going to hear from two men who know that better than anyone. All right, we're going to put Nick on because that does sound a little bit scary and spooky, and Nick is right here with us, so we can do that first. I did want to mention as well, when you're enjoying Tom's presentation, he'll be back on the stage a little bit later for a little bit of Q&A, as will our next guest, who I have to say I'm absolutely thrilled to see speak because he is quite the guru when it comes to Facebook and making it work and happen for your business. Aside from that, he also has 4 kids under 5, so he's a guru in a whole other way as well. Nick Bowditch is a leader and an inspiration to many, an amazing story from Facebook executive to small business startup for almost a decade. He has absolutely been a thought leader in social media and the digital marketing space. He is transforming people's lives and their businesses through what he does. And I am going to bring him to the stage now. Would you please welcome Mr. Nick Bowditch?
That's good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Geez, Ollie made it not a very hard act to follow, so that's awesome. G'day everyone. My name's Nick Bowditch. I used to be the Facebook guy. And now I am retired, which is nice, and I want to just show you a few things which might help you grow your business if you're in business, a small business yourself, or if you advise small business people, as a lot of us in the room do as well. This is probably quite useful too. I just want to keep it to 3 things because I was saying to Michelle before, I will just speak until someone tells me to stop, so I have to be kept under wraps a little bit. I want to thank the Minister for her introduction and also Chris, the acting mayor. I think he's doing a fantastic job this week, for his thoughts as well. I also want to call out one thing. I'm a very proud Indigenous man from the UN Nation in New South Wales. Today is Indigenous Literacy Day, and I'm on the board of the Indigenous Literacy Foundation, and I just encourage everyone to at least think about that today, at least think about what literacy can do to change lives in remote communities, not just Indigenous kids, but Australian kids in general. That's my little soapbox thing for the day. Thank you. So, the first thing I want to talk about is authenticity, right? This is the first way that as a small business person you can compete with big brands like TerraCycle or Coca-Cola, right? And authenticity is very important to me, right? If I rock up here, or if Tom does for that matter, in a suit and tie or shoes, then that's really not me and it'll stink, right? You'll know it from the minute I start talking that I look and feel really uncomfortable and it's not my brand. So I just want you to think about what is your brand and how authentically you can represent your brand to the market, to the media, to the world. These 4 feral but delightful little things The reason I went to work every day, they're still the reason I come and do this sort of thing so I can feed them. They're the reason that they're really the biggest part of authenticity for me is, I'm a business guy and I'm a Facebook guy or whatever, but I'm a dad to these things. And they love me and they don't know that I worked at Facebook. They don't know anything about Facebook. They know my 5-year-old, which is the dude here, my 5-year-old who's the daughter and the matriarch of our family, unfortunately for my wife, someone says to her, "Oh, what does your mum and dad do?" And my wife's a social worker and she works with families and mums. And she says, "Oh, mum, works with broken families and families that are sad." I said, "Oh, what does your dad do?" I've heard her say this at preschool. "Oh, what does your dad do?" He just sits around playing on Facebook all day. So, yeah. But yes, we have 4 kids under 5, as Vic said. I'm also a very proud New South Welshman. I was going to actually remove that from the slide, and I thought, no, screw it. For the last 10 years, I might have removed that, but not this year. And this is how you get in contact with me if you need to, and one of these things is important in a moment. So, yeah, the first thing is really authenticity. Do you get your clients to represent themselves in a real, positive, and actual factual way of how their business is? If you're in small business yourself, are you doing that? Or are you doing we this, we that, we're big, we're massive, we've got a whole team of people when it's actually you in your jammies in your garage, right? Because really, the small business market often wants to connect with you as a sole trader or a small business person because you're a small business person. So I think we're doing ourselves a tremendous disservice by trying to be the corporate giant when it is you and your jammies. So that's the first thing I want to point out. Just be authentic. The second way that small business can compete with big business is by embracing the power of mentoring. And being a mentor yourself. Quite often, I think the most powerful mentoring relationship is peer-to-peer. Because it's impossible as small business people, where it's our little baby, and it's one of our children and our business, and we're terribly protective of it, and we're very sensitive about anyone saying anything. Quite often in my job, I have to talk to people about how shit their websites are, and it's like saying to them, "Your baby is really ugly." They don't want to hear it. They've invested all this time into finding just the right hue of blue on their WordPress site, and they won't have it. So, and often it's because we're so subjectively part of our business, you can't see the forest for the trees. And mentoring helps that in a massive, massive way. All right? I'm just going to do something for a moment because I told Michelle I'd give something away. It just occurred to me what I might give away. So I just want to take a photo of you all. I'm going to put that on my Facebook page, which I'll put up at the end. If you get on there and tag yourself, you could win a 1-hour online mentoring session with me at $400 from today. All right? But you've got to get on Facebook. For the people who I spoke to today who said they weren't on Facebook, shame on you for a start. And secondly, you have to get on that to win. So that's the second one. And the third thing, which is the most powerful one, I reckon, is storytelling. For so long, Australians and Australian small business people in particular are really terrible at telling our story. And telling your story isn't coming to a gig like this or some networking breakfast and giving your card out to someone and saying, come in on Tuesday and we'll get 5% off or whatever, this is what we do. That's rubbish. That's not your story, that's a pitch. And not a very good one either. Your story is what I spent the first 5 or 6 minutes telling you. Where I've come from, what I do, why I do what I do. That stuff is very, very powerful because quite often in small business, you are selling exactly the same product to exactly the same people for exactly the same price as a whole lot of other people. And the only thing that's going to differentiate you from the rest of the noise is your story. And I just don't understand why we don't get out there and tell it. Fantastic storytelling from Tom right from the start. What makes us different? How do we come from stoners in the garage to, multi-million-dollar company? That's a great story. And that's the story which you're going to remember when you leave here today. And if he just got up, or if I just got up and give you the sales pitch, blah, 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 and here's my brochure, you're like, well, that was rubbish. I didn't engage with that at all. So part of storytelling, and this is what I want to leave you with today. Is there anyone in the room who does not know what that is? Oh, I'm so jealous of you right now. This is Frozen, a Disney phenomenon unlike any other. It's the biggest selling, the highest grossing Disney movie of all time, more than Lion King, more than Aladdin. It's a phenomenon, right? And I play that about 3.8 times a day on average at home. The thing about Frozen is that it is fantastic storytelling because it actually is a hack on Disney movies that go before it. Because, are you waving at me? No. Sorry. Okay. So it's really a hack on Disney movies because the women have the power, right? Not a dude. They don't need some dude to kiss them to wake them up. They don't need to marry some dude to be whole. The women are in charge. The two strongest characters in the story are women. The baddie is a dude, and that never happens. It's always a chick that's a baddie because that's how you turn normal little girls into people who want to be princesses. Right? And in the end, the chick chooses the love of her sister over the love of a dude for the happy resolution. Very, very un-Disney. Right? So I just want to quickly take you through the characters, and I want to talk about story arcs real quick to tell it. So, does anyone seriously, who doesn't know this story? Oh. You don't know what you're missing, seriously. Let me give you a quick rundown, right? This chick is the queen, right? Through tragic circumstances, parents drown, boat sinks, parents drown, she becomes the queen. She's got this crazy good magic power of turning shit into ice, which she's somehow scared of and doesn't ashamed of, which I'd be like, this is awesome. But that's her story. The Ranger sister is the actual hero of the whole story. She's the main character, and she's going to resolve it all at the end. This douchebag, he starts out as a good guy, and you think he's a good... Oh, spoiler alert for those people who are going to watch it. He starts out as a good guy, but then he turns into a villain, and that's the very un-Disney part. This dude is... well, the dude next to him, to her, is the person who in most Disney stories would be the hero and who she has to connect with for the happy resolution, but not in this one. My little doodad's... Oh, no, it's not. The snowman is the Jar Jar Binks of Frozen, for the people who can connect with that. It's this completely unnecessary, annoying character, you think, but it actually ties it all together. I want to show you how. Because this is powerful storytelling, and this is how you, as small business people, can tell your story differently to how everyone else tells it. This is a timeline of the movie, basically, right? With some significant events. The ice to the head incident, the parents drown, Coronation Day, another ice incident, Hans exposes himself as a douchebag, and then Anna chooses love of her sister. This is story arcs. So the writers and the author, the journalists in the crowd know what this is. Some of you probably are using this stuff already. But story arcs is a way... Why is that like that? Have I done that? Whoa, thank you. Story arcs is a way to keep people engaged in your story, so keep the market engaged in your story, towards the end. If you think about this being the opening of your new store, or a sale coming up, or when you're getting some press in the local rag or whatever it is, all of these things are going to be events along the way which you can engage people in your story and bring them with you. So you can see here that the purple and the orange are the two sisters, and you can see they stay together until they have a little bit of a breaking up here. There's a bit of a falling out, and they move apart, and then they're resolved at the end, and they love each other, and then we're all happy at the end. Right? The yellow one is the snowman, the annoying snowman. So you meet him at the start, and you think, well, that's a weird character. I'm not connected with that at all. But he actually holds it all together, the yellow, and it's resolved at the end as well. Christoph is the dude who should be the hero. He comes in about here. Weirdly, he sees the first ice to the head incident as a kid, but that's not really properly explained, which I think is weird. But anyway, that's him. And then he comes through and he's reintroduced here and halfway. But he's not in the happy resolution because he's not required. Right? Very un-Disney. And then Hans, who's the douchebag, you meet him halfway through at the Coronation Day, and he's actually exited out of the story before the happy ending. Why am I telling you all this? Because if you have a a sale or something, or some event at the end. All of these things are, a story in the local paper, what you're doing on your Facebook page, what you're doing on Twitter, what you're blogging about, what you're getting guest blogs about. All of that stuff is part of a story arc. And this stuff is around us all the time, right? If in Days of Our Lives or Bold and Beautiful or any of that crap, they all do this constantly, right? So down this end is, in the future, is where Ridge and Brooke, Ridge and Brooke are getting married, right? But back here, is Brooke the chick? So back here, Brooke is in a coma, right? And will she ever, they're engaged and stuff, but is she going to be alive for it? Who knows? And a little bit longer, she comes out of a coma, but now she's got amnesia, she can't remember Ridge, and and then here you start to think, well, is it really Brooke or is it her evil twin sister? And there's a bit of, and then it's resolved here and they get married, right? That stuff is around us all the time, and you can take advantage of it as small business people and people advising small business people to tell their story better, because we are really, really crap at it, because we don't think about it in a structured way. We sit down at 9 o'clock, so we don't have a content calendar. Some people do. I know Yvette probably works with a lot of people who do. But, we sit down at 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning in front of Facebook and we're like, right, I'm going to write something about the business today. Hang on, I'll just look at the Kardashians' Facebook page for a little while. So, 10:30 rocks around, you're still looking at the Kardashians' page. Fantastic storytelling, by the way. But you have not done anything in your business, and you're not telling your story. So think about how you can use that device, a simple thing of a story arc, of planning your content, planning who comes in and out of your content and your marketing. The content marketing piece is very, very powerful for small business, as it is for Facebook and Twitter and everyone else. Lastly, this is how you get in touch with me. That Facebook page is where I'll upload that photo. If you want to be in the running to get that $400 mentor thing, I'm happy for you to do that. If you've got any, if you want to ask any questions, because we're short on time, if you want to ask any questions, hit me up on Twitter or on Facebook, and I'll try and get back to you today. So, how'd I go, time-wise? Okay, that's all right. So, thank you for your attention. I really love small business. I really love what you guys do and what I do and what I used to do all the time. People, politicians, present company excluded. Still waiting for the check to clear, so I'll just be nice to Mr. We are the engine room of Australia, and you should be really proud of that. How many small businesses? 1 million people are employed by 400? Yeah. A shit ton of small business is happening in Queensland, and you guys are driving it. It's something to really be proud of, but please, please, please get out there and tell your story. Make yourself different from the rest, because otherwise you're just part of the rest. All right, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you so very much indeed. Tell your story, be authentic, get some mentors, wonderful messages. We are actually now going to bring a couple of little chairs up onto the stage. I'm going to invite Nick and I'm going to invite Tom back up to the stage. What we've decided to do, because we know that you'd love to hear a lot more from these two gentlemen, and Ollie's phone and his computer and his microphone are all interfering, we're going to record his presentation for you tonight, put it straight up onto the website. You'll all get an email next week with a link, so you can still see Ollie's presentation. So rather than sit here today and a little bit longer, we thought we'd bring our two gentlemen back to the stage so you can have a talk to them. But Ollie's presentation will be recorded tonight, and as I say, on the site, and then email link to every one of you next week so you can see it. So as our little band of merry helpers do this, I'm going to invite Tom back to the stage and also Nick back to say a few words to us. Nick, I loved hearing you talk about telling your story. I've got some good friends who own a florist business, and they do huge sort of corporate installations and that sort of thing. And you'd always see the end result. There was always this sort of, oh, that's beautiful. Wow, look at those flowers. And I always wondered how on earth. So now they've started on their Instagram and on their Facebook, they've got photos of them putting it up, because, what you don't realise, and a wedding finishes at 1 a.m, they're there at 2 a.m. taking things off the ceiling. And they've started showing photos of how they build things and what the day-to-day stuff does. And I just love it. And I've found myself following it because it's, as you say, an interesting part of their story. And it's a real key, isn't it? Because what you all do and what you put into your business is such an important part of it.
Yeah, and I think people are, sometimes more engaged in the behind the scenes, in the how you get there than the final product, So, you get the two bites of the cherry potentially if you can get someone through the whole thing and then get them in your store to buy something. Then you've got the double hit. So.
Absolutely. Well, these gentlemen are here for all of you, so please don't be shy. We've got a microphone up ready to go, so please ask someone to get us started. Here we go. Tom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the first thing that we always try to do is we say the world is what it is today, and let's accept that. Because I think many times we go too utopian, right? The real answer to all these recycling issues isn't us. It's what you're saying. It's reinvent the product so that there's never an issue at all. It's the concept of circular economy and dematerializing service and so on. But that's not realistic for a big company to do tomorrow, even if that intention may be there 20 years later. So our first step is always to say, let's make it easy. Let's solve the issue today, set up collection platforms of all different sorts and start recycling. Then, once we have that and there's some success we can all celebrate, then the next phase is going in and advising the corporations, which we do now with companies that we've been with for typically more than a few years. Once we've had that success to point to, then it's about, okay, let's advise you on how can you solve the problem one step earlier, which is in the design process. What we find, and this is the important thing, is that to get these big disruptive changes to occur, you need to do that in very small stages, and it's important to have success at every stage. Because when the success is only going to be 3-4 years later, you're going to lose the momentum really quick. So we try to distill down the issue into these sort of bite-sized chunks with quantifiable celebratory success at each stage, and that allows us to move into that next step. And with companies where we've been with them for 5 or 10 years and working with them on these issues, we are seeing a huge openness to the question of how do we reinvent the product so it never becomes waste to begin with. But it's important to not aim for that at the beginning. You got to start at this sort of early stage and go in these bite-sized chunks with celebration being a critical cornerstone. People have to really feel good about what they've done in 90 days and 1 year, and then they're going to be able to layer on more and more from there.
And we have time for one from Nick, if anybody would like to give Nick a quick question.
As a small business, keeping up with the changes with Facebook, I'll be honest with you, my wife does 99.999% of Facebook by, microscopic component is watching what she does, basically. But every day I hear her talking about, well, the rules have changed again, this is changing, and it becomes very difficult to, as a small business, to maintain the impact of Facebook, or social media in general, I suppose, but Facebook being clearly the biggest out there of that. How do you recommend a small business keeps up with that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Often I'd come into work in the office at Facebook and something will have changed overnight. So, we were up against it sometimes as well, so I know how hard it is for small businesses to keep up with it. There's a good website, facebook.com/business. It has all the latest sort of press releases, all the updates, case studies, videos, how-tos for small business in particular. That's a really good way if you can set up an RSS feed, like something that comes into your email from that, or if you just check that, say, every Monday or every Thursday morning at 10 o'clock after you've been on the Kardashians for a little while or whatever, then that's a good way of keeping up with it. There's agencies that could help you depending on your means, and then there's just the help centre at Facebook as well. But I totally understand what you're saying. It is very, very difficult to keep up with. The thing about Facebook is, people complain when they change things, but if they didn't change anything, people would complain too. And you all saw what happened to MySpace. So things have to change, things have to move, and you have to keep breaking it for it to be relevant. The collateral damage of that is the sole trader who's like, I've only just gotten how to do this, and now there's something else. But yeah, I think just keeping up with the facebook.com/business page and subscribing to blogs. There's a lot of things like Inside Facebook or facebook.com, things like that, which will give you the day-to-day change as well. But I totally understand your point. And
Tom?
yeah.
Just one thing to add on to that. One of the ways I totally resonate with the issue that you're describing is young people, especially sort of, the teenager age range, is already doing this and is way on top of it, right?
And they're looking, they're not expensive. It's a great person to bring on, like some young person that may be in your circle to say, hey, can you manage my social media for me? And you'll pay way less than an agency to do that. And they're already experts at it, and they're probably well ahead of what's trending anyway, because they're the ones creating the trends to begin with. So there's a lot of value, especially I think on the social media side, of getting young people involved. And young people want to be involved in business. They love wearing the shirt that says staff on the back. I mean, that is all you have to give. I mean, like we said, in our company, we have thousands of people apply every single day for free internships. We do nothing but give free lunch. That's it. And we have thousands of people coming in for hundreds of positions. And that's exactly that type of function. Social media is one of the areas we deploy that group very aggressively into. And they know it, and they're way ahead of it. And we could take down some of that burden.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm mindful of the clock because I know many of you getting to work. Can you please thank our two special guests today, Nick Bowditch, Tom Saki. Thank you both so much for being with us. Fantastic. Fantastic. Wonderful. And thank you for your prizes as well. Time now to welcome to the stage the CEO of the Innovation Centre, Mark Paddenberg, just to say a few words, and then we'll draw our lucky door prizes and have you on your way.
Thank you very much. Just a few words, so I'll get rid of that. Try and fast track this. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the University of the Sunshine Coast, the Innovation Centre, Business Enterprise Centre, the Chamber of Commerce and the Sunshine Coast Council and other sponsors here today and the attendees, I think please put your hands together for the Minister and our speakers today. I think fantastic. Minister Stuckey, particularly, thank you for hosting this informative digital business breakfast here on the Sunshine Coast and here in the Innovation Centre as part of Small Business Week 2014. In a way, so I heard a few people comment, it's an events-led recovery. We've got so many events on the Sunshine Coast in the next few weeks. The university itself was small business 10 years ago. It's now very big business. The economic contribution of the university directly into the economy is in the order of 269 million. And if you add in students, graduates and the broader impact, it's in the order of 536 million. The Innovation Centre is also doing its bit in support of the small business community. We are passionate about supporting entrepreneurs. The Innovation Centre has supported and had over 135 companies physically in the Innovation Centre here, and then in the order of 20 or 30 virtual associate members. We've helped raise $28 million for our in early stage capital for those companies, and those companies have generated over 480 jobs. I'd like to tell more of the story about the Innovation Centre, but I haven't got time. For those people who are interested, we're going to do a tour in about 10 minutes in the foyer of the Innovation Centre, so please join me and my staff. We've got Paul Lloyd, Dean Alley and our newly appointed marketing coordinator, Jana Beaudenay, here today, and Rowan's in the reception area too. So we'd love to see you and show you around if you've got time. Just very quickly, Mel Bruff asked me to put a quick plug for two very important digital events and small business events on the 17th and 18th of September. We've got Paul Greenberg, is the National Online Retail Association, talking about the future of online retail. That's on the 17th of September, and John Borghetti talking about tourism and the Sunshine Coast, aviation, etc. I also want to say I invented a recycling purpose for the toothbrush about 20 years ago. I use it to put the grease on my kids' bikes and on the roller door and that sort of thing. But I'm sure you knew that too. Look, just in closing, there are many challenges still ahead of small business, and for example, I know there's companies here looking for 20 IT staff. We have a skills shortage in the IT coding area, and the Sunshine Coast, we're growing so fast in that sector. So Atmail, for example, needs staff desperately. So we've still got a bit too much red tape, I feel, and the failure rate's still too high. But that's what Small Business Week's all about. It's about assisting the small businesses. We have a lot to do with Minister Walker as well, and I applaud him for his vision, the 2033 vision, for making Queensland recognised as the entrepreneurial hub of Australia, injecting over 20 billion and 100,000 new jobs in that sector. So we want to work very closely with the Queensland Government in achieving those objectives. And that's it from me. A vote of thanks. I'd also like to announce that we've got an extra door prize. Wilfred, the founder of Phenomic, who has invented a low-cost version of the Oculus Rift, the VR Smart View, which he's putting on a crowdsourcing fund very soon. And we're doing that draw now?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the winner of the VR Smart View, Wilfred, please stand up so they know who to go to for their special prize. is Moto DNA Mark McVeigh. Where are you?
Congratulations. I've got the 2 books for you too.
Okay. And the 2 books?
We'll do 2 winners for Tom's books, thank you.
Focus PG, Alan Hertel. Is he here? Very good. And the third one, you can announce that one.
And Ian Montague, you can do it.
Ian Montague from Montague Consulting for the other book.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sorry we had to rush you through your speech, but thank you so very, very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that does draw things to a close. Thank you so much. We're absolutely thrilled with the turnout this morning to see so many of you here. That tour is starting in 10 minutes or so please go for a wander. There are so many amazing events. As the Minister said, 240 across the state. Take a look online, see what's happening. She's off to Roma this week, right around the state. Take a look online, see what else is going on, and keep connecting. And very best of luck. We hope to see you back next year. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.